Hi, I'm Ryan Deeter with Realty, and welcome back to another monthly market update for the Columbus, Ohio real estate market. And in this video, we have the June 2023 numbers in. We're going to do a deep dive into that. But I want to kind of start off by saying there's some patterns that happen every year, and I want to show you that. So if you're looking to buy a house in the next 6 months to a year, this will be a really good video for you. Maybe give you some hope and think about the strategy you have for buying a house. If you're looking to sell your house, this will also be a great video. It'll help you avoid some pitfalls that a lot of sellers make this time of year, but also help you get top dollar for that house and the best terms as well. So let's dive into it. All right, as you can see here, I have the June 2023 numbers pulled up that the Columbus Board of Realtors puts out for us. Again, this is the compilation of all counties in the Columbus region, even though it's a little bit further out, but it kind of gives us an idea, a snapshot of what's going on as a whole in the market. And of course, if you want to dive into your individual area, they actually produce these as individual areas, school districts, things like that, which is really helpful to understand your location. But anyway, some things I always like to focus on, of course, the first thing I'm always looking at is the average price, median price, and average price per square foot. Kind of looking at those as holistic. Where are they going? What direction are they going? And as you can see here, the average price is up for 4.6. Median sales are up 2.3, and then average price per square foot 3.2. So around that 4 to 3% as a whole is kind of where I would say the direction, when it comes to your home appreciation as a whole in Columbus is kind of the direction is going 3 to 4%. Some areas more, some areas less. Right now, there's actually more, what I would call just volatility in certain areas. There's areas that are kind of still going up and to the right, and some areas that are stagnant and or losing depreciation. As of Licking County, we kind of saw, just for an example, let me actually show you that. I'll kind of show you how to get to that. It's kind of off the cuffs here, so bear with me. Licking County, had a huge jump last year from the Intel announcement. They had a huge jump. They actually had over 100% appreciation as a whole in that area. A lot of the areas had that. But now we're seeing it come back down to reality. We're seeing average prices come down, kind of a little bit of the lull between the announcement of Intel coming in and that huge jump to the reality that it's going to take years to build, and that it's not quite where people want to live at right now because it's just being developed. And so there's still people buying land up there, still stuff moving. Obviously, minus 8% is, it would be significant if they didn't have let's look at last year's actually. So you can come back here. It's a little, I navigate this a lot, so I move quick, but this is a lot of good information here if you ever want to just do a deep dive into your own area. But let's go. This is 2022 Licking County. You can see it was up, 16%. As a whole, 24%. So it's still up, 8% overall if you average it the last 2 years. Not bad. So like an area like, let's just go, even going a little bit more specific into Johnstown, which was a big area. Look at it. This is interesting. We have 108% appreciation in that area, 28% median price, and 100. And this is the crazy part: 119 average price per square foot. So this is one where it's like, okay, well maybe this is the average. It was bigger homes that sold. There was some larger properties sold. Maybe that skewed the numbers. But when you have that on top of the average price per square foot up 119, that's a big deal. But then going back to 2022. You kind of see here going 2022. Let's go into Johnstown. Where's Johnstown? There it is. Johnstown, you can see it's down 45%, down 41%. So it's kind of a reality check there on what's going on in that area, just as a whole, just something to consider. Columbus, this is kind of I like to kind of point that out because it's kind of a good idea of what's going on in Columbus as a whole, where we had this huge announcement of Intel. We had a lot of flood of the internet and the national, even international market kind of getting our eyes on Columbus and kind of boasting those numbers last year, really, shooting them up a little bit. We had really strong numbers when a lot of places still didn't, kind of were starting to come backwards when Columbus was still moving forward with pretty steady numbers. I think I have last year's up here. It's May 23. Let's pull up June 22. You see here 12% appreciation last year as a whole. When it comes to average price, median and average price per square foot, we're both at 14. So those are really strong numbers. Even in any average year, if you can have over 10% appreciation as a whole, that's twice as much as the national average consistently throughout the history of the housing market. So, which is a big deal. And so now, when we see these numbers at 4 and 2 and 3, it seems very modest. It seems very low, but you got to think the last few years on average, if you take those, the last 2 years, we have an 8% appreciation on average. And that's why, you got to look at this market. You can't just expect, 1 year to make or break anything. Kind of what's going on as a whole. Will this be the norm moving forward? I think this is going to be closer to the norm moving forward as we shot up the last 3 years with COVID and then Intel shooting the Columbus area up. But once you hit that 300,000, 350,000 price point on average, that 5% is a lot higher than a, $100,000 average price point at, 10, 20%. So we're still growing in a sense of the appreciation rate or the number that you're actually getting, when it comes to appreciation in your home at 5%, because the number shot up, is now going to be a significant amount for most people. So anyways, that's kind of things I like to focus on, where the market's going. Should I buy, should I wait? It is slowing down. At the same time, 5% of 350, the average price 370, which, is the low end really for Columbus. The average price point is always going to be kind of that lower end as a whole. So, because they're just smaller, there's a lot more smaller homes than there are bigger homes. At the same time, if you're looking to go into a nice neighborhood with a good school district or even just a desirable area, it's going to be more than the average price. So, so those are things to think about. And people, I get this question all the time: well, how's the market? Is it still competitive? Things slow down, and it's still competitive. I can tell you that right now, the market's still competitive. But the thing I like to look at is this time of year. There's one, I kind of did the intro with this. There's a predictable thing that happens every time in June and July. June is typically, if not May, June tends to be the peak of the market every year, where prices tend to peak in June and then flatline or fall the next month in July and August. So I'm going to show you this. I always show this chart, and if you've been following along, you hopefully know this by now, but this is where we are. We are at the peak of the market. This is last year, June, it peaked and then came down. So if you see here where we are, the average price is 370. The last month it was 363. So we had a little bit of a bump in June. Sometimes it happens in May, but this year was in June. So 370. And then let me show you to illustrate that point. In June 2022, the average price was 354, and May was 353. So just a slight difference between June and May last year. And then what I got July, I got July put up here. You can see it drops in July to 346 from June to 354. So you almost $10,000 less on average from June to July. So we start to see the peak of the market has arrived. In fact, we're in July now, because this is a month later, the data we're collecting. And so what we tend to see is we have already peaked. And here's what I would tell you: if you're thinking about listing your house in the next 6 months, the thing you have to be cautious of is thinking that the market's going to continue to go up and to the right all year long and never, wane. And so a lot of sellers think this line here that we're seeing, this is 2022, that it's going to continue to go up and to the right and never come down. It's just going to continue to go. But buyers understand, hopefully you have a good agent that's telling you, hey, prices are going to flatline. They're going to come down a little bit. It's going to get less competitive as a whole. Now, this is an average. Remember that. Good homes that are very desirable, that have everything everybody wants, will still be an outlier. You can still sell for top dollar. But as a whole, prices are going to start to drop, and the competitiveness is going to go down. And I make a whole video on why spring market is the most competitive and the best time to get top dollar. So go back and watch that. I don't want to dwell on that today, but it's just reality of the market, is that we've hit the peak and it's going to come down. So sellers, you got to be careful of not wanting to price your house way up here, thinking that the market's going to continue to do that. You saw a couple of houses in May sell for this price, and you think your house is better, so you're going to price your house even more. And buyers are smart. They're going to say, well, and they expect to pay more than list price at this market because they've been conditioned all spring to do that. And so if you price your house, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 more than what's sold in May, all of a sudden buyers think that, they're going to have to pay $50,000 over that. and they're not even going to look at your house because they think it's out of their reach until it's been on the market for a few weeks, and then you've kind of missed the boat. So you got to be careful on that as a seller. Avoid that pitfall of thinking that you can just price your house more than everything that sold in May. Look at the data closely. This is the time where you really have to have a good strategy of listing your house and saying, what does it look like on paper? Because the desperate buyers have already found a home or found a way to, whether they renewed their lease or staying, are going to try again next spring. So anyways, long story short, for buyers, this could be good news for you, that what you're seeing and what you've been through, if you've been through the ringer and if you've been looking, that we've reached the peak and that things should be somewhat less competitive and less expensive for the next 6 months or so. But at the same time, that being said, when we have such low inventory, and we go back to June 2023 here, we have come up in inventory. This is another thing I'm keeping a really close eye on, is that inventory, month supply of inventory. We talk about this every month as well, that we are slowly ticking up in month supply of inventory. That's what we had last month. Last month we're 1.1, and this month we're 1.2. So we are slowly going what I would say, quote unquote, the right direction for the market. And I think for both buyers and sellers, what I would like to see that get to around 2%, where there's still a healthy number of homes available for buyers to choose from and have options, but not too many where we're still seeing prices and appreciation, continue to go up and to the right as well. So what happens when we get too many houses? It's just the supply and demand swing. If we get too many houses, there's more supply than there is demand, and right now there's still more demand than there is supply, keeping prices and appreciation up and to the right. So with that said, that 2%, not 2%, but 2 months of supply inventory would still be that healthy range, I think, to keep prices on the rise for you sellers. They're looking to get appreciation, but also give you options as buyers and not have to, give everything up to get the house at this point. So anyways, hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you find this data and this information useful to you and your individual situation. Of course, if you want to talk more about this, always happy to dive into this. Again, good news for buyers that we've reached the peak this year. And then sellers, just be careful not to think that the market's going to continue to go up and to the right, and have a little bit more, have a plan and have more strategy going into the market post spring, post summer, especially as we get into fall and winter. It gets a little bit trickier on how to navigate this. So anyways, of course, I'm Ryan Deeter with Key Realty. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out and give me a shout.